Okay. Wait, hold on. I need to share my screen too.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. This is fine. I'll just edit this out of the video. Okay. So, starting off with a banger here, we have Nino's. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Nino's was is a good episode throughout. It doesn't have any really low point. I think we could be. I like how Nino actually does change near the end for the last dinner service, but how Mike changes and is actually the basically a quit, like basically leaves and doesn't want to see the change really.
Hmm.
It's very interesting how he actually went through that and said it wasn't Nino not wanting to change.
Yeah. My thing is that what I got from it is that Mike just really wanted to be like have Nino be like the dumb older brother throughout the whole time. And then I feel like it's kind of just shown in throughout the end of the episode. But yeah, I think it is iconic for good reasons. I would lean towards a high A rather than S.
I'm thinking I would think honestly just S because of how iconic Nino's is, and it's actually a good episode.
I agree. I mean, I'll put it for now, I'll put it in the like it'll be the
B.
face of A, but
Yeah,
as we go on, it might go to S.
yeah.
So I'll put it in the A. And then it moves on to Black Pearl.
Black Pearl.
For me, this is like basically the first like great episode throughout because granted this is one of the first episodes that close like they close right after Gordon leaves, but
Mhm.
it has a good owner and an owner who is bad but in a very iconic way. And the staff, while they're kind of forgettable, I think they're good enough. And overall, I just think it's a really good episode because it really shows the first person who like really stood up to Gordon and really didn't really let him win, you know?
Mhm. I feel the Black Pearl is one of those episodes where it's like you can actually root for one of the owners that doesn't need a change. Like he's perfectly fine. And one of the owners was actually wanting to succeed and trying to make the business survive, while
Yeah.
his other two partners were just there for the money, basically.
Yeah. And I think
And
in all of that, I think it becomes the first S tier episode.
I would have been. It's definitely one. It's definitely one of the best season one episodes.
What is the S tier?
Yeah, I would say it's Esther.
Okay. And then next is Burger Kitchen. And I think this is my favorite episode because I think in all of it, I think it's because we I don't really count the second part because the second part is just
Mhm.
disappointing, but in all of its, if we put all of Burger Kitchen together, I really think it's almost the perfect Kitchen Nightmares episode because you have a good chef and you have an owner who is kind of a jerk, but in a funny way. And then you have like some people like Danny. I don't like Danny. I think he's kind of just whiny. But
Mhm.
looking past all of that, I really think it's my favorite episode. And I think it really is like kind of almost the best of season four, even though like there are other good season four episodes. I think this is really like arguably like one of the best episodes of the whole season.
Yeah, I, yeah. It's able to stand out in a season that's good. We consider the best season with
Yeah.
season four, and it's still able to stand out.
So I'm gonna put it also in S tier.
I agree with that.
And then next we have the episode where it's the guy and then the wife, and then I think that's how you can tell episode is not very good if we don't even know anything really like the name right off the bat.
Hmm. I honestly forgot the episode name. Like, no, he's from Kitchen Nightmares. I just can't remember. I would assume it's Italian, just from Canada. We could put it in C just for now. It's not necessarily a bad. We if it's a bad, we would know the episode if it was horrible, because you
Yeah.
would remember that. So I think C is fine because it's like it's probably just like a okay episode, nothing memorable.
If I'm correct or if I'm mistaken, I think it's a Belgian restaurant, which even more so how forgettable it is. So I think it is a C tier episode.
Yeah, that's yeah,
And next we have, I think that's the thing that's Casa Roma, I think.
yeah.
And this
Uh,
episode, I have mixed feelings about it because the owner is funny, but overall the episode is just it's so bland, honestly.
except when they actually almost do get in a fight when they're confronting each other about the payments and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
About how they actually
Mhm.
they actually flip the table.
Yeah, that actually is a good moment. I just think the episode in its totality is just kind of weak.
Yeah, and like what like how he was like kind of it was interesting how he was trying to show that he cared for his customers when Gordon was actually like showing them the stuff he was doing. Like when he's saying why is he showing that to my customers? You can't do that. Like very interesting on his part to do that.
Oh yeah, I think it was more so like I don't know. I think if he cared enough, he wouldn't have been serving them like raw and beans basically. And overall,
Yeah.
I think it's more C than B.
It's above that episode in C,
It is
but
better
it's
than that episode. Yeah, that's how I'll put it in front of it. And then next is Zaina's.
uh an okay like it's like the third best season 6 episode. That's not a hard thing to do, but it's the it's the only it's a two-parter. It's one of the few two-parters, but I feel the two-parter was kind of unnecessary. And again, uh, we see how the dynamic is that everyone's pointing the it's like the staff versus Zaina, and then Zaina is against them.
Yeah.
Like she feels like they're doing nothing, and then they feel they can't do anything. It makes it very cool. It makes it more interesting than the other episodes in certain facts where when they when the when they're actually like in dinner services, we can see that their personalities are not necessarily like hiding from Gordon.
Mhm.
Like we see in certain owners, they're like trying to change how they look, or the staff is changing how they act in front of him or in front of the camera. But we see in this episode, it's more natural than certain episodes,
Yeah.
which is seemed really good, cool. It was really nice to see that.
Yeah, I do think it is better. It is like season six is just a weird season because they do focus too much on drama, I think, and that's when the show was just becoming a drama show rather than actually about cooking or just restaurants. So I think it's not a bad episode, but it's just unfortunately it's not in a good season. So when you look at it, it's not that strong on its own, but in season six, it is a decent episode. So I think I would put it more so in B than C.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a low mid B at the end, but it's in a B. It's a B.
Yeah. And then next we have your one of your favorite
It's
episodes.
personal favorite, but I could see that it's because it's a personal favorite for me because how when it's an Italian episode, so you really have to stand out to be a good Italian episode, and we see she there's different dynamics, her with their husband, her with their staff, her with her dad, multiple three things, right? They have three different ways: close family, her staff. It's very interesting. We actually get to see that different point of views on it, and we actually see it change. And I guess it's technically spoilers, but she does have to sell it, but she does change still, and it's very cool to see her actually be different, actually reason with Gordon. Sadly, it does fall under the trope where if you cry in front of Gordon, he'll baby you, which I don't like to see that as much, but it was still nice to see her actually start like show she cared for her restaurant.
Yeah, I think the reason a lot of people would be like not be in such high favor as you is because a lot of people don't like owners who are really just kind of stubborn against Gordon. Like she is defending her food all the way, and like it's kind of borderline on the way of Abby from better episode where like they kind of have a bad start off right off the bat.
Hmm.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't hold it in high regard. But then in the other way, you can look at it, it is a good episode in that sense that from the very beginning, it's like a tense kind of thing. So I know you'll probably want it in A tier, right?
I think I'm personally fine with a high B, but if it, I would prefer it to be an A tier.
Hmm. So I'll put it in A, but I'm gonna put it behind Nino's.
Yeah, that's fine.
And next is an episode that I have never watched completely just because the premise is just the premise is boring in the sense like not boring, but it's kind of weird because it revolves around how one brother like was in jail and he was like an alcoholic.
Yeah,
And my problem with that is that Nino was an alcoholic, but they don't that's not what the episode is introduced
yeah,
as.
they're not circling around that.
Yeah, it's just like
That's
a
not the
part
whole
of it.
premise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why my problem with this episode is like then if the tire like it's hard for you to not feel bad or feel conflicted when you're watching because someone was in jail, you know. That's what my problem with this episode is that it's kind of too predictable because you know one of them is gonna get a lot of pity because he was having problems in life rather than,
Hmm.
you know, who was having problems, but they kind of showed it at the end of this episode.
Yeah,
So that's why I think, unfortunately, I think it's season three episode. I'm gonna put it in the C tier.
that's fair. It's very fair. Again, another Italian episode. So
And following that is arguably the best Italian episode.
Luigi's, yes.
But for this one, I'm gonna focus on the photo of Grace because that one is more iconic.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think this is arguably the best Italian episode because it has like I guess the most Italian feeling family.
Hmm.
And they actually are one of the families that the restaurants that stayed open the longest, showing that like they actually followed through what Gordon said. They kind of got their family back on track. And overall, just one of the most iconic episodes in the whole show.
Hmm. And it's cool we actually see like more of like we see in Grace where she's like very defensive of the whole restaurant. And then we see when Gordon is trying to show her the like the reason that's failing is not necessarily her fault, but like she's one of the reasons it may be failing, like maybe not successing as she thinks it is. And we actually see her go through the change and actually we actually see her allow everyone to be more connected and actually accept the change eventually.
Yeah, and I think it is S tier, but would you say it's better than Burger Kitchen?
Um, I can see both ways. One is they're both honestly family connected,
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting. And but I feel I think Burger Kitchen being in a like an all American restaurant with technically Australian stuff in it too. It's it's I think it stands out more in that sense than Luigi's being an Italian episode. But then again, Luigi's is probably the best Italian episode, arguably the best Italian episode that we have. So
so
I can see it going both ways personally.
I think the way to go is I'm gonna put Burger Kitchen first, but I'll
Mhm.
put Luigi's in front of
Black Pearl.
Black Pearl, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Because
fair.
I think I would rather watch Luigi's than Black Pearl, even though Black Pearl is a really good episode.
Yeah.
And then we have
The
with
cafe.
yeah, with Kingston Cafe.
The Kingston Cafe is very. I like it a lot. With the mother son dynamic, which is honestly we don't see that too much. It's mostly a father daughter instead of mother son,
Yeah.
and it's very cool to. It was very interesting to see that, and the type of restaurant is like the cuisine they served. That was also really cool. Um, and yeah, and her practices were one of the more interesting ones. Like instead of just having all this disgusting food or this like rotten food, how she was like actually like holding it in like plastic bags
Yeah.
and having the martini glass and like having
Yeah.
salad in a martini glass. Like her practices in the restaurant were like the most unique I think, and it's from the top of my mind. I'm thinking right now, and how like Gordon actually changed it being different instead of just remodeling the whole thing and giving a new menu. He actually adds an outdoor patio to like serve more food, and that was like really cool. That was also really cool. Again, the trope of crying in front of Gordon gets to him, but I could see why she was crying. It did make sense for her to come from that background.
Yeah, and I think it's more so the reason this episode is really good is because the owner is actually likable. And they're stubborn because she's done a lot with her life. It's not like other people we see who don't really have any experience in the restaurant business. Like
Hmm.
if it's someone who's actually accomplished a lot and like they're trying to do even more, like that's something that Gordon admires rather than he thinks it's like a dumb idea sometimes. So I think that's why it makes the episode stand out even more. And the fact that she does kind of let Keone, like her son, leave, but it's like on his own terms rather than like forcing him out.
Yeah, like she saw that he doesn't want to
Yeah, be in a restaurant.
fully do that. Yeah,
That's why I think it is S tier, but I do think it's better in Black Pearl, but I don't know if it's better in Luigi's and Burger Kitchen.
I think we should leave it in front of Black Pearl right now, and
Yeah,
one of the few restaurants to still be open,
I
which is
know.
really cool.
And then we go to Pete's. So not Pete's, it's called Charlie's there.
Charlie's.
Yes.
Uh, very, very good. Another again, a really good Italian. I keep saying that, but it's Casemiro being this person, this chef that
The legend,
has
yeah.
been passed. Yeah, has been passed what he's done, and how she wants to keep holding him to that standard. Like not holding to that standard, but like she's blinded by what he's done before to like just to believe that he's doing it all the time, and the fact that she's holding her mom and her sister
Yeah.
to basically keep the business running is was a very cool
I
thing to
think
see.
my biggest problem with well, the reason I wouldn't say this is an S tier episode is my biggest problem is Tatiana is not a bad owner in a sense like she's not like controlling over everyone. But
Hmm.
her being oblivious and kind of like she's like innocent in a sense, but also not because she's the one who wanted to do this. Yet she complains about like being the problem in a way. So that's why I don't have it in that high regard. Like it is funny seeing Casemiro and like it does have a good staff. Like I think that actually is like staff we
Hmm.
stand is there, but I think it's not as good as it's not as good as Nino's, and I don't think it's as good as Luigi's.
Yeah,
And
but
they're
do
both
is
yeah,
yeah, but do we think or do you think it's is it as good as Black Pearl?
I would say no.
Like, then we have to say is it better than Nino's?
No, I think it's right in front of,
Between Nino's
and yeah, I think
or
it's right between
okay,
there.
yeah, that's fine.
And then we get to another Greek restaurant.
Hmm. Um, one of a personal favorite was it's one of the few episodes I watched by myself inadvertently, just picking a random episode to watch. A good season 5 episode, and uh, the another family run restaurant. And then I think it's more common we see family run than just normal staff at this point with Kitchen Nightmares,
Yeah.
or it's an even split. It's we have to nitpick and see which one's which. But seeing the family dynamic and how the the younger daughter and him are in the back, and they both have like their own problems. Like the the daughters and the mom are technically more inclined to be in the right because the dad doesn't want to change fully, but the youngest daughter is still in the wrong because she still thinks the food is good. She
Yeah.
just thinks that how they do it is wrong.
I think one of the strongest things about this episode is that while Peter is kind of like too stubborn, he also does really care about the business. So it's not like he's just someone who like let it go to waste. He's just more so stuck in his old ways. But I think it is a standout of season five, which is kind of hard to do. Like if I think of season five, I do think of this episode, which is kind of hard considering season five is pretty stacked near the end of it. So And it's one of Greek restaurants I think are kind of hit or miss on Kitchen Nightmares just because they're either kind of bland or they really like have really big personalities to them.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's S tier, but I do think it's right behind Nino's.
Right behind Nino's and in front of Charlie's.
Yes.
That's fair. That's fair.
And then we get to Cafe Hun.
Um, I'll let you take the lead for this one.
So Cafe Hun is a little unconventional because it's one of the episodes they don't do a second dinner service after Gordon implements his plan,
Hmm.
which is interesting and some people might not like that, but I think it's fine because it just shows that the business was like the right people were working there, but they just had the wrong ideas, in my opinion. And I think if I look at that, and Denise is kind of an annoying owner in the beginning when she tries to like act soft in front of Gordon and cry basically. But
Mm.
the fact that he sees through it and like she kind of accepts that she was the big problem, and she even like gives back the when she sued the place, she even gives back the word hun. So, and Brian is a cool chef. So, I think I think it's an S tier episode because it pretty much goes right after she accepts she's wrong. Like they get busy again. They don't need to do that second dinner service. I think it kind of shows what Kitchenheimer's was supposed to be. That once Gordon implements a change, they accept it rather than they do another dinner service and then something goes wrong again.
Hmm. That's one of those rare ones where it's the we don't actually get to see the dinner service part through part. We it just like they just overview and just tell us the dinner service happened. It
Yeah.
was one of the rare episodes that they actually do that.
And I would want to put it in S tier. My only dilemma is I think it's better than Kingston Cafe, but I don't know if it's better than Luigi's.
Hmm. Well, Cafe Han's season 3 episode, correct?
Season 4.
Oh, it's 4. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's the end of season. It's the second. It's like the third to last episode of season 4. Um. Well, I think we could see it in both ways. I could see both ways. I personally wouldn't mind it being above Luigi's, but I wouldn't mind it being below Luigi's. Personally, I think below Luigi's. That's what I'm leaning towards, but it's very close.
Yeah, I think I'll put it right between Kingston Cafe and Luigi's. And we're gonna go back to season 1 twice right now. And we're starting
With
off with
Finn,
Finn
Finn
McCool's,
McCool.
which I like the episode. I just think it's kind of that syndrome of season 1 where Kitchenheimer's is still in that kind of like beginning stages, so it's kind of awkward the way they present things. And
Yeah.
I think it's fine. And it's one of the episodes where it's the most obvious where they have plants in the show. So that is kind of showing that they weren't confident yet in the show. So I think it's a fine episode. I think the guy, the main chef, is funny but kind of obnoxious, and then the dad is just like a sitcom dad. Like literally, I think he's in the show in the '90s. So I think it's a B tier. I don't really. It's fine. It's passable. I don't think it's in a A tier.
Hmm. Season 1 definitely has heavier hitters than that.
Yes. But it is. It does have some good moments, like when Gordon throws up in the restroom, and when the
Or
guy
he
wants to chug against Gordon. Like it is.
and then he talks to the dad.
Yeah. So it's not bad. It's just
Mhm.
there is better ones in season 1. So it's B tier, but I think it's in front of Zana's though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And then we go to Jay Willie's.
Um, Jay Willie's is like more interesting with how the actual restaurant actually looks. I don't think we actually see many restaurants looking like that, and it's one of the other few one I think it's either the only or one of the only episodes to actually to have the owners own multiple restaurants at the time,
Yes.
and then having that one being the only one that's not succeeding like the other ones. So, but the one problem I have with this episode is that the chefs in the episode, which is a big part of Kitchen Nightmares, are very not forgettable, but they're not. remember, like you don't remember them as much as other shithead chefs, which means forgettable. But you don't, I don't through like I don't necessarily this episode is good because of the chefs. It's the owners mainly. The owners mainly. It's like the staff is is okay. Like you don't remember the staff. You don't remember this episode for the staff. You remember it for the owners and the whole conflict the owners have.
Yeah, and I agree with that because it's like the chefs are just like kind of accepting what was going on. Rather, they don't ever
Mhm.
voice complaints. While we see in other episodes where they're always going against the owner, they're kind of more passive, which is not a bad trait. But yeah, you're right. In Kitchenheimer's, the chefs are a huge part of it. They're sometimes the main like characters of the episode. So I think it is a decent episode. I do think it is. I would put it in B, and I would put it in front of Finn McCool's.
That's fair. That's fair.
And then we get to I
You
don't
should
get
remember it.
why they put this photo of him going he's going to jail. I don't get why they did my boy Richard like this, but I really forgot the episode name. That's crazy. Oh, to to I don't know the episode name.
Harlem. Come on,
What is
man.
it?
I forgot. I forgot too. But it's not my
Um
favorite episode.
okay, so as my it's tied with Burger Kitchen in terms of like I don't think I remember all the quotes from this episode as well, but it definitely is better than Burger Kitchen in the sense that they do and better, and they didn't need a second part to do it.
Yeah.
And the owners are just overall better because Richard and Jorge are just like they do accept for what happened that it is their fault. It's like when Richard is the one who alienated them from the community, and overall, it's the ones that stay the longest though. Like after Kitchenheimer's, they stayed open the longest. So I think it's an S tier, and I would actually put it above Burger Kitchen.
Yeah, I can see it. And the episode name is Park's Edge.
Okay, yeah, I would. It's kind of a basic name for considering like how iconic it is.
Hmm.
And next we get to one of my least favorite episodes, but a lot of people will like it, which is La Galleria 33.
It's just, I think, uh, they get babied too much in this episode.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I think it's like I think because their parents owned a successful restaurant, I guess they had the mindset they can do it too, like less than a mile away. But then we see it that the staff is like the staff is very memorable here. We have very good staff.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the names. I don't know how.
Because Sarah is the
Yeah,
server,
yeah, Sarah, and then
and then Pat
Pat,
is the
Pat, yeah. But they're very memorable, and I think that's the strong point of the episode. And it's sad how we see Pat how they defend Pat taking tips from Sarah, and they defend that like that's fine. And Gordon also doesn't say anything about it.
I just think my biggest problem with this episode is that people like it because they're obnoxious, but in my personal thing, it's like these people had experience because their parents, as you said, their parents had a restaurant, and yet they let their restaurant become unsuccessful, even though they saw their parent. It's literally right across the street from their parents' restaurant,
Mhm.
and they couldn't duplicate that in any way. And I do like Sarah a lot. She's probably my favorite part of this episode, but then they basically turn it on her, like you said, where Pat is able to be a server and a dishwasher. Yeah, he can get tips at the same time. So that just never sat well with me. And just overall, I think it's really overrated. I think they go there two after getting two parts, they also get revisited. So I think the Kitchen Nightmares people love these people, but me, I'm gonna put it in B tier
Yeah, I see why.
because I would rather watch Nino's and Luigi's way before I would watch this Italian episode.
Yes.
But I do think it is better than Film Cool than Zanos.
Ooh, I don't know if I could say it's better than Finn McCool's. I'd rather watch Finn McCool's than that. Uh,
Oh yeah,
Like
that's a fair point. So I'm gonna put it in front of Zaynaz, but we find Finn McCool's.
it might be because it's from season one and one's from season five that one's easier to watch than the other.
Yeah.
It's just that for the La Galleria, you have to basically be watching the you have to like man more or less like actually like listen to the drama that they're having more or less
Yeah.
instead of just accept like liking them changing more.
Yeah. And then we get to another season one episode, which is kind of forgettable because I don't even know the restaurant's name.
Yeah. I think it's more memorable when the two owners, the manager defends them, basically like inadvertently defends them by saying like if Gordon doesn't like this, then I'll defend you guys all the way.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That was that was a part where it was like you were waiting to see if he was gonna do something about it, and obviously he didn't because no one was gonna do that to Gordon at the time, especially during season one.
But yeah, I think it's interesting because I think people respect Gordon more in season one because it's like the internet wasn't big, so you kind of heard about Gordon, but you never saw him. So it's kind of like this mystique. But then in season like six, by that time they kind of don't really care about him as much.
And obviously Gordon wasn't as, I guess, passionate in a way you could say. He wasn't as like on the restaurants and like trying, and how he was changing the restaurants back then was more different than he did. How more like unique than he did now, where it's like you could it's going to be where he changes how it looks most of the time and how the menu. That's basically all it is. But the we actually see him change the chefs mainly because he could see the chefs can cook. It's not in this episode mainly, but in other episodes. And I think how he handles the episode is also more unique, and how he actually goes out to show them fresh food, like in person, telling them about it, like how we can use it, and actually going outside, taking the whole staff, which is very cool. That's the most memorable part.
And I would put it, I think I'm gonna put it at the bottom of B tier.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the next we have with Flamingos.
Hmm. Flamingos, a lot a lot of cool parts in this episode. It's a good episode. I like the episode. Uh, when the dynamic, I guess, like the scene, the how they go with the chef, the owners, the daughter. I think what they focused on too much was that the daughter was like was older. I think
Yeah.
that's something that they focus on a little too much. But it was too bothersome to other episodes when they focus on something like that. It's not key to the episode, but it was a little in the way. And then it's interesting. We see she doesn't fully want change when Gordon does changes everything.
Yeah.
When he destroys everything, then she's like at like we could kind of see she's ready to change. She's not fully, and then when she sees the relaunch and how it's gonna look, she still doesn't like it and still isn't ready for it, which was very cool to see.
But yeah, I think she's like, I don't think she's that bad of a donor because, like, I think she was more fearful of like losing like her, I guess, her flamingo or like overall aesthetic of the restaurant. But I think I don't like her at the same time because she kind of downplays how hard her husband works. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of like her, but then it's also kind of hard to hate her. So I think I would want to put it in A tier, but I don't know if I could.
Mm. Is it better than Jay Willie's?
I think it's barely better, yes.
If it's barely better, then I think it's a B tier.
But
I think it's the top of B.
it's like the face of A tier right now.
Yeah.
So I will put it in basically it's the head of B tier. And then next we have the Capri.
Um. Cool. I like it. I personally like it. Um. The two owners can be too obnoxious sometimes, but sometimes they can actually kind of be funny when they don't it's those people when they don't have to try to be funny, but when they try to be funny, it's like it's kind of hard to watch, and it's kind of whack. It's I personally don't like when they reuse the idea from a past season one episode where they go to the boxing gym again. I know it's a
Yeah.
different one, but it's like they go to the boxing gym. They do the same thing where they fight they physically fight out all their anger. And but I think it was kind of I think they could have did it in a different way. To see to do that to get let that anger out physically instead of just doing the boxing gym again. They just did it because they saw that they did it once already, so they could just do it again.
Yeah, and I think when I saw this episode, I think this was a restaurant I saw that wasn't gonna last, even with Gordon's help, because the brothers were just too lazy. And I just thought
Yeah.
from seeing it that this episode was not going like it was gonna be a good entertainment episode, but sort of like a substance. I don't really like it that much.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put it in the middle of B tier.
Mm-hmm.
I think
That's fair.
it's behind Finn McCool's.
Yeah.
And then we get to Chappie's.
Mm, I like seeing Chappie's. I think the ending of Chappie's is the person. I personally, Chappie's is like it's like a wave of like how it goes up and down in like quality. The How the episode starts is a little, I guess, not too interesting, but it's cool how we actually hear how they started to work there and the reason they think it's like they didn't it's failing.
Yeah.
And I think it's the one of the few episodes to take place in Nashville, or it's the only place.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see a different change of scenery in that term.
And
And we see, go ahead.
I think the strength about it is that like Chappie is a good it kind of weird sounds weird, but he's a good villain in the sense that he's memorable for being like the one who just pushes back against Gordon the whole time.
Hmm.
And I feel he only said he was going to change to like basically save face with Gordon. And then right at when Gordon leaves, he goes back to his old ways. So it shows that
Yeah.
he's one of those few people who actually didn't care the whole time. Like you can tell that it was probably his wife's idea to do this, and yet he agreed to it. So it's good in that way, but you can also see it as like as a negative. Then it's like, what's the whole point of him being on there then?
Hmm.
So I would put it in A tier.
Yeah. It's a good standout season 5 episode. I
But
think it's the second to last one.
is it better than Charlie's and that episode?
I think I think it's between Charlie's and the other episode. I think it's between there. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we get to technically the last episode of the whole series.
It's something Moon. I forgot what it's called. It's something Moon.
Yeah,
But very forgettable episode. The only reason we really know is because we rewatched it like yesterday or 2 days ago,
yeah,
and that's the only thing. Like the only memorable part is that court scene, but like it's not even a court scene. Like that's when Gordon was like that's when the kitchen nightmares was trying too much to be, I guess, like a wild factor. Like
yeah.
whoa, they had this whole scene, they had this whole room rented out, they had this whole thing where they're talking to her. And I do find it cool that they do swap it on the head chef. I do
Mhm.
like that. I was really interested. That was really cool. But overall, just lackluster staff. No one's really memorable. I could picture like the three people's faces. I couldn't tell you their names, but I think on it's either personally I would say it's either a high C or low B. That's what I would think because the episode's just that like forgettable.
I think it's better. It's worse than Casa Romo because it's a another Italian episode, and
Hmm.
in season six, there's another Italian episode that is infinitely better than it. And it being the last episode, technically last episode of the whole show. I think it didn't like end on a high note.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, I would put it right behind the episode of where the brother is like alcoholic.
You're saying at the bottom of C tier or it's above that?
It's right above that.
Oh,
Like
okay, yeah.
it'll be right here, like
Yeah.
right in front of this.
Hmm.
And then we get to the one with the dad and the daughter.
Yeah. You know how little that narrows it down. But yeah, again, the father-daughter dynamic we see most of the time, but it was different because it wasn't like they both had equal control. It was he didn't want to give the control to her,
Yeah,
which I really did seem interesting, and how he was still good defending his food even when Gordon obviously found it was bad. Like he obviously saw like horrible fish, horrible scallops, but even then he still defended his food, which to some people it would be more obnoxious and like more annoying, but it showed that that's how I guess like that's more confident and how he was actually willing. He wasn't willing, but like he really loved his business, and we could see that he didn't want to give the ownership to her because he. It's not that she didn't believe in him. It's not that he believed in her. It's the fact that he didn't want to let the business fail, so he was scared of if he didn't have control of it, it was gonna fail.
yeah. I think that helps it stand out more because it's one of those revisit that works because he just Lauren went to go confirm that the dad left the restaurant because it's basically the daughter's restaurant now.
Yeah,
And overall, I think it is a really good episode. I think it is, you're right, that it's more like he was prideful about the food rather than he was being arrogant because I guess he saw it as it was like his creation. So I would put it in A tier, and I think it's better than Charlie's, but I don't think it's better than the other Greek restaurant.
yeah, I see. I like that.
So I would put it like in the middle of A tier.
Hmm.
And then we get to Barefoot Bob's, which is a episode I have mixed feelings about because there's a S tier episode in there, but the other owner is so annoying and so blatantly in the wrong. But Gordon, being Gordon, wants to make it like a double-sided issue when it's not. Like, it's obvious the wife doesn't care at all, and it's obvious she hasn't been doing anything. So, but yet they try to make it where they both have to agree to change, which is like, it's just a slap in the face of the guy. And I think the staff is really good. I just think that's holds it back from being an S tier episode.
Yeah. Not and the Barefoot Bobs, not to be confused with the Mystery Diner Barefoot Bobs.
Yeah. So I would put it in A tier, but I would put it behind the first two in A tier.
Yeah,
And then we get to Michelle's, The Secret Garden.
the first episode,
Correct.
very good episode to start with. It shows it, and it's cool. It's one of the rare episodes where Gordon basically like actually goes face to face with them, and he's literally like screaming right at their face. I think after that they saw that they can't really have Gordon doing that as much,
Yeah.
but it was really cool to see that one time, or like to see that at least at full force, because that was him. Like he wasn't cursing, but he was like yelling at in like rage because he could see Michelle is a good chef.
Yeah.
His practices weren't as good as how they could be.
Yeah. And I think what gives us it's just really a good starter episode to get into Kitchenheimers because the location wasn't a problem. It was just literally Michelle and his ways of like not wanting to be over exaggerating. And in Michelle's defense, after the first dinner service goes well, he actually is open to changing. Like he's he doesn't like how Gordon is like kind of demeaning him, but he does see that Gordon is like a good chef. But he is also like Michelle is an annoying owner, but he's in a funny way, so it gives him a pass rather than him just being like annoying just to be annoying. So
Yeah,
I think I would put it in S tier, but at the end of S tier.
yeah,
I think Black Pearl is still better than her.
Hmm.
But it's still really good to like it's strong, it's a strong way to start the whole show. And then we get to the one with the guy who doesn't want to who smokes while cooking Gordon's food.
Yes, everything's cooking. Um, I think what was one of the most memorable parts of this episode was after he left and when he didn't know the sous chef they had. He basically wasn't able to hold it up on his own.
Yeah.
I think that was very cool to have that where it's like, oh, he wasn't solely the problem. Like it was like, oh, if he did it by himself, he would be perfectly fine. No, we saw that it wasn't the fact that it was just the head old house chef's problem. It
Yeah.
was actually they needed more help necessarily. They needed a better leader instead of just kicking him out.
Yeah, I think that overall it's a good season one. I think it's either season one or two, but I think it has a good like overall format to it. I think the owner is a little bit forgettable, and I think that's kind of what holds it back for me and High is that the owner is kind of forgettable because she kind of let them walk all over her, especially the head chef. But it is have a good tasting. It does have decent like when Gordon like basically tells her to fire him and he does fire him. So I would put it at the face, like the top of B tier right now,
Yeah.
because I think it is better than Flamingos and it is better than Jay Willie's. And then we get to Grasshopper.
Grasshopper. Again, I think the chefs
Hmm.
are technically a key part to this episode just because of how like they don't care,
Yeah,
but they're not the main focus of the episode. They're one
yeah,
of the problems, but the main focus is on the three owners,
yeah.
basically three owners. But and we see that with when they're going through all these like emotions of how they all think they think so only the main the dad I think it's his dad, right? That's her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, her dad thinks knows that they're not succeeding, but they're still blinded by the the they're together, right? They're husband and wife.
Yeah.
The husband is still like blinded by it and still thinks actually they're doing good and is shocked when Gordon tells him they're doing bad and he struggles to be a leader because that's not what he was basically there wanting to do. I do like that.
And I think the biggest strength about this episode is that no one's really unlikable because the reason the dad is upset is because he feels that he feels that Mitch isn't stepping up, and then Maureen is mad at the dad because she thinks he's being too hard, and then Mitch is not unlikable because he just doesn't know how to. He's never really worked in restaurants, so he doesn't really know what he's doing. So I think in combination with that, and like overall the kitchen is not that good. Like I think the chef Mario is kind of a bad chef, but I think the general manager is good. So I think all of that put together, I would give it like a S tier.
Hmm. I
Now,
see it.
I think it's better than Kingston Cafe? No, but I do think it is better than Black Pearl.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with this.
And then we get to Amy's Baking Company.
I'll let you give your opinion because you do have a different opinion. You have a odd take on this.
Well, my thing is that it is easily the most iconic episode in the whole show. Like, I'm not even gonna debate that. I know how popular it is, and I know it's the most iconic. Like, hell, even Amy and Sammy were on Dr. Phil. Like, I know how big this episode is, and it's the biggest in a season that is known for being iconic. So I'll start off by saying congratulations for doing that. But my problem with this episode is that the owners are not likable. Like Amy and Sammy are funny, but I don't like them. They're annoying. Sammy is so defensive and Amy is just so like out of this world annoying. So my problems with it are that, and also it's cool to see Gordon walk away from a restaurant he can't save. Yeah, that hasn't been seen before, but he walked away because he saw how dumb these people were, rather than like, oh, they have too much Jack, can't help them or
Hmm.
stuff like that. It was literally because these people were too stuck in their own ways, and in my opinion, that's not really a good like way to end the episode. Like we talked about how Cafe Hunt doesn't have a second dinner service because everything went so well. They don't have a second dinner service because everything went so wrong. So in all of that, I don't think I would even put it in S tier.
You wouldn't put it in S tier?
No, I would put it in just for how popular and iconic it is. I would put it like in the middle of A tier
Yeah, I see. That's bad. That's fair.
because I know how much this like important this spy is to the show, but it's just they're annoying and they're just like they're not likable people, which is my whole dilemma with it. So I think it goes right behind Barefoot Bob's.
Hmm.
Because the episodes in front of it, I can think are actually like there are people who are likable, and in Amy's Baking Company, the only likable people are the staff.
Yeah,
And then after that, we go into Katsa and the guy who's emoting and the
yeah,
thing we can't find. Yeah,
yeah. This episode, I like how Gordon doesn't try to push them getting back together. I think it would have been really easy for them to try to push that narrative,
yeah,
but thankfully they didn't. Gordon just said it like a joke in a jokingly way
hmm
at the end, and it's cool how we see that one sees that, oh, it's not easy leading the kitchen,
yeah,
and after seeing this, and it's not, it was really cool to see that. But I think the one flaw with this episode is I feel I I think I don't want to say it's like it's not that it just doesn't feel off. It's like there's just something with it that like I don't. It doesn't feel like an easy watch to me. Like the S tier episodes right now that I could see, they're all easy to watch right now. But
yeah,
I think this episode you have to be really invested in the lore they drop on you, and you have to know why. Oh, what like how are these people related and why are they acting like this? So that's
yeah,
why I think it would be an A tier and not an S tier, just because it's not as easy to watch as the top episodes.
yeah. And I would say I would put it in front of Barefoot Bob's,
That's fair.
but I wouldn't put it in front of Nino's or other or Yanni's.
Yeah.
And we get to Abby's, which Abby I think is a kind of like similar to Amy's Baking Company, where she's really annoying in the beginning, like she's just so stubborn. Like they literally have the worst intro to the episode ever of like her just openly like not liking Gordon. But
Mhm.
I think through under all of that, they do find resolution. They actually do, and she actually does admit she was the big problem with the restaurant, unlike Amy's Baking Company again. So I think that's what gives it the edge over those type of episodes, that where the owner actually admits that they're wrong. It does take a while because Gordon literally gets kicked out of the restaurant by her, but I do think it is a A tier episode, and I would put it above Amy's Baking Company.
Yeah. I think it's also cool to see that um the revisited. I think that was one of the rare revisiteds that was kind of warranted
Yeah.
because of how she actually kind of changed.
Mhm.
It was kind of cool. I like that. I like that. I was revisited. I personally found watchable.
And then we get into the one where the chef basically went to the same
I,
school as Gordon and trained like basically the same way Gordon trained.
think the restaurant's called Le Frite, something like that.
Yeah, Le Frite.
Yeah.
And I do like the owner is one of the free owners that actually just throughout the whole time like goes head to head with Gordon, and like who actually looks like he's threatening Gordon when he talks about his wife.
Hmm.
And throughout most of the episode, he is a jerk. Like I'm not gonna lie, he is really just a jerk the whole time. Even when he says like sorry, he doesn't like. I think he only took Gordon's advice once he saw the changes. Like I
Hmm.
think throughout the whole episode, he's just so stubborn, but he does accept that he was a big problem with it. And
Hmm.
overall, I think it's a good season. I think it's season two. It's a good season two episode. Out of like, even though season two is kind of a lackluster, I do think it is a good.
Hmm. I like it. I like the episode. Um, can't really say anything about it personally. The it's not. I said I like the episode. Can't really say anything. It's also one of the few episodes where again the staff isn't the main part. It's the owners,
Yeah,
which is not a problem for this episode because it's like it's hard to do that. It's hard to do it. It I think it's hard to have the staff be a big part of it when the owner is the head chef. I think that's when it becomes really hard for the staff to be like more inclusive. That's why Park's Edge is a really good episode because and Burger Kitchen because the head chef is a big part of it but they still allow everyone else to be known and still have a part in it.
yeah. So I
So that's the
think
one thing I think.
I would put it at the face of B tier
Yeah.
because I think it is better than Flamingos and the one with the smoking chef.
Hmm.
And next we go to one with Chef Mike.
Another Greek restaurant.
Yeah,
Very personally, I tried to watch this episode on its own. I I think Chef Mike, how they did it was like it was a cool joke how they called him Chef Mike because how they were being self aware right there, but
yeah,
I'm glad they don't keep doing that. Like I'm glad it's like that episode is the only Chef Mike label they give. Like
yeah,
that's the Chef Mike. Like you could call other microwaves in the that they use in other episodes Chef Mike, but that's Chef Mike.
yeah.
That's I think that's a memorable that at least that episode has a memorable part. So I think if an episode has a big memorable part like that, it has to be on the higher side of B tier. I think on the like I think all the episodes in B tier right now have a memorable part in it, at least. But with that part with the chef Mike, I think that alone basically elevates it. And overall, it's not that bad of an episode with the owner, with his mom and her sister. Uh, how he doesn't want to change because he believes everything is perfect. I think that
Yeah.
was it was a still decent episode. It's those episodes that's again pretty easy to watch, just because of how simple it is. There's nothing too deep about it. And no explicit drama you have to watch for.
I think the one thing that keeps it from being an A tier episode is right after. It's one of those few episodes that when the show is ends, they say that the restaurant closed
Yeah.
because they had to sell it. So I think that holds it back in the sense that it's a good like resolution for their family, but in terms of the kitchen nightmare, it technically didn't solve it, you know?
Hmm.
So I would put it in like the middle of B tier.
Yeah.
And I think it's slightly better than Finn McCool's.
Yeah, I can see why.
And then we get to the episode where the guy is watching TV like during the dinner services, which shows how
Yeah.
forgettable it is.
PJs.
Yeah, PJs.
Mm, very personally, PJs. I think what they try to do with the movie theater part was a little too much,
Yeah,
and it was pretty obvious that he was he wasn't really an owner. He wasn't owning the restaurant, and the head chef was just a bad. Well, they had bad practices. It was a very episode that was very gonna follow that uh Troge, not Troge. I can't think of the word.
trope.
Trope. There you go. Yeah. Okay, if it was following that trope of that, they just need to get rid of this guy, get this guy. tell him to be a leader, that he needs to be a leader. And again, it's one of the another episode that right after the episode ends, they say they had to sell the business.
Yeah. And I think it's overall just like it's pretty lackluster. It's not bad per se, but it's also not very good. So I would put it as C, and I'm gonna put it like in between the the last episode and like I would put it right here. Like right there, I think that's where it's fine.
Yeah.
And then we get to arguably the worst episode of season 4.
Yeah. Just I feel that's one of the few episodes where it's really obvious that the wife is basically a gold digger because
Yeah,
of how he was really rich. He was not really rich, but he was wealthy, and he had a restaurant. And then when the restaurant was dying, she was the one to give a break, to give a thing, give a remodel, and she spent like all his money.
yeah. I think it's one of those few episodes where they create the narrative for you of the dad being the problem and the wife basically being a victim, even
Hmm.
though, and then they even make the daughter like a problem in the episode when she's like she owns this as much as the dad. Like obviously that's not true, but the mom has probably told her that. So I think it's a low light of season 4. It's not like no, it is bad. I think it's a bad episode, honestly. And I would say it's on the level of the last episode of season 6. Like I think they're right next to each other.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see this.
So I would put it. I think I'm gonna put it. I think I'm gonna put it barely in front of it because I don't know. It's just like a whack episode.
Hmm.
And then we get to another Greek restaurant with the guy with the dad and then the son and then the mom.
Oh yeah, we skipped for it. Yeah, okay. Uh, Um, a Greek again, what you said with the Greek being hit or miss. I think it was kind of cool to see that the son wasn't totally in the right. It was going to be a simple, oh, the dad doesn't want to help the son, and that's it.
Yeah.
And we actually see that the son did some stuff back then that made the dad. That's the reason the dad doesn't want to help the son as much.
Yeah, because he heard his like he basically called his dad and mom like
Uh-huh.
failures. So I do think it is a good episode. I don't think it's not bad. And I think it like you said, it actually does change up the narrative where you would have thought the dad was just stubborn, but no, it was like the dad being resentful because his son basically just didn't want anything to do with the restaurant, but now he does. So it's kind of hard to accept him. So I would put it I think I would put it near the top of B.
That's like yeah, yeah,
And I think it's slightly better than Flamingos.
yeah.
And then we get to, unfortunately, I think what I could say like is kind of a low of season 4, which is the one with the dad, the wife, and the husband.
I think he is a dad because I think his daughter is in
Yeah,
the
his daughter
restaurant.
works there.
Yeah. Um, very annoying. I think the wife is very annoying. Like it's not even the point where it's like funny annoying, where it's like, oh, it's like that character that's like that. It's like she's like the little annoying girl. Like, and it's like that trope is like very annoying, and thankfully, Kitchen Nightmares doesn't do that a lot. But when they do it, it's very annoying when they that happens. And I don't think she's funny enough to be like likable. She's funny because she's not trying to be. She's funny because we're like it's funny to see her get like to get told what's wrong.
Yeah. And I think that overall, it's just, I hate to say it's one of the episodes that even though Gordon's helping him, I think it's one of the restaurants that I didn't think was going to work because I think they had some of the most debt on the whole show. Like they had millions of dollars of debt. and in combination with like their family being like fractured, I thought this is even with Gordon was when Gordon helps them like they're not gonna be able to survive, and they didn't survive, and they're not. I think they're not even together anymore. So I think in combination with all of that, it's just a bad way to end season four, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's slightly better than the episode we just talked with the wife, with the gold digging wife, I think.
Hmm.
But I think it's just slightly better.
Yeah. That's slightly better.
And we get to the one with the guy who still makes the pizzas.
Yeah. Like the most memorable part from it, I can't remember really a part except when the the bone and the what was it, pasta? I forgot what
Yeah,
it was.
and the
It was like
vegetarian.
yeah, that's the only part I remember from that episode. And when he gets like an actual and when he gets told to stop making pizzas because he's the owner.
Yeah. I think
It's just
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I think the problem with it is that, well, again, it's an Italian restaurant, and the problem with well, the reason I don't really know a lot about the episodes because the guy is kind of too like closed. Like he never yells throughout the whole show. Like usually we have owners who are like overly talkative and like he's one of the most reserved owners on the whole show. So in a way, that kind of makes him more forgettable because he's more like of a passive person where other owners are super in your face.
Hmm.
So I think that's what holds it back. But I don't think it's a bad episode.
Yeah,
I think I would put it in B tier, but I would put it right behind Finn McCool's.
yeah,
And then we get to the Hot Potato Cafe, which I think is a better episode on paper because I like the chef. I think she's pretty cool. And then it's just the owners are so bland, honestly.
yeah, yeah. I just we're looking at the hot potato cafe, right?
Correct.
The I think it would have been more memorable if Gordon actually had left, because that was gonna be the other episode. But then the owners catched up to him, and he did eventually let them. They did kind of change, but I think they more or less changed just so Gordon would stay
Hmm.
instead of actually like accepting the change.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those episodes that unfortunately, like they're not gonna survive just because they weren't doing enough business even when they were popular, and it's just I don't know. I just wish I see a good episode in there, but it's more like just a okay episode at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Because season two is really that period where Kitchenheimer's is still kind of like getting it's like it's still in the beginning stages, but it's still kind of awkward. So I would put it like at the end of B tier, like I literally at the end.
Yeah.
Then we get to another. I think it's an Italian restaurant.
Which one? Yeah, it's Italian.
Which I like the owner because he's one of those owners who actually does like it's season one, he actually is pushing against Gordon, like when he actually does like almost get in a conversation with him. So that's
Hmm.
good. But I can't remember the tasting at all. Like I think that's never good if you can't remember Gordon like talking about the food. I can't remember anything
Hmm.
about it. And as we said, it's an Italian restaurant and Italian restaurants are either really good or they're kind of bland, and I think this one is just it's okay.
Yeah.
So I will put it. I think it's fair to put it like as the face of C tier, but that kind of just means it's just passable.
Yeah. It's one of the episodes that's very. It's one of the few episodes to have a revisited to be in a revisited that's like over the revisited that this was in that was in was like over an hour. Like it's over an hour without commercials. So it was probably like 2 hours with commercials, which was kind of weird because I feel like that was one of the main parts in that revisited. I think that part was like an hour, and I don't think that restaurant really necessarily need revisited. I don't think revisiteds are really necessary, except when unless certain episodes need it. And like this one, like I could not tell you what was the main reason for it.
Yeah. So I think in all of that, I think that's why it's like it's a C tier episode because it's not bad, but it's also like you said, like why did it need to be revisited?
Mhm.
So I think it's just gonna go at the front. Like it's better than Casa Roma, but that's not really saying much.
The man who worked 25 hours a day.
Yeah. The guy who wouldn't wipe his ass with the wipe. So I've recently watched this episode like I think 3 times in the last like 2 days, and I'm a really big fan of it now. I didn't really know anything about it, but I think it has a good dynamic because it's a family-run restaurant and it's Italian, but it does stick out because the son doesn't feel like the dad like appreciates him, and the dad doesn't feel the son is trying hard enough, and then the mom is just like in between everyone. So I think it's good in that regards, and I would put it at the end of A tier,
Yeah, end of A tier. Yeah,
but not be better than the last one in A tier. Wait, where did it go? I put it. Where did it went somewhere?
it's still down there, is it not on
Oh
the
no,
list?
I accidentally put it. No, it's not S tier.
I'm saying down there, isn't it? Oh, I'm looking at Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there. Oh wait, now I put
Then
Zayn as the name. Zayn is not S tier episode. Okay, there. And we get to the guy with the handlebar mustache.
which is the place is called the Handlebar,
Yeah,
and really, really cool. I think I like the premise of the episode. I like how the head chef accepts that she was in wrong. Like she was
yeah,
wrong by like she didn't want to do this. It was really interesting to see that like it wasn't just her like randomly being put there. She
yeah.
outright said that she was going to want to be in that position.
And I think the only problem with this episode is like you said, like the chef is just accepting that it's not her career. So she kind of let things go awry. But it's also interesting because this is an episode where Gordon actually likes one of the things. So I think overall, it's not a bad episode, but it's one of those season 1 episodes that's kind of forgettable because the owner is so monotone, so kind of boring. So I think it goes like at the bottom of B tier.
Yeah.
And then we get to the one with another Greek restaurant.
Honestly, there's only one memorable part again. Two really. When he goes down to the first part is when he's doing the testing and then the server starts choking,
Yeah,
and then the second part is when he goes down. Then he is starting sees like the I forgot what it was. It was like
the caviar.
a caviar as it was, and it was like pink, and that's what I think was very
Yeah.
interesting.
And I think overall it's not a bad episode. It's season 6, I believe, and it's just one of those episodes that I don't really like feel much for, but I don't think it's bad. And like you said, it does have two iconic moments of her like choking on the pepper and then the
Hmm.
caviar where it's been in there for like 8 years. So I would put it at the top of B tier.
Yeah.
And then next we get to Oceanic, and I made a tier for it because since I haven't watched it in years, I can't say much about it. I can just say it's iconic because it's the one episode that is not you can't legally watch.
Yeah.
And it's one of those episodes I think that they actually get into a fight with Gordon and the chef, then there's people like separating them. So it has that going for it. But then again, it's just you can't watch it, so you can't say if it's actually that good or not. And then we get into this episode. I honestly don't remember anything about this episode.
The all I remember is the signs in the front.
Yeah, and then the fact that that he's basically like the owner, even though he's not the owner. Like
Hmm.
it's one of those episodes where they don't. It's kind of the owner's fault because they put someone in charge and they just let them do whatever they want.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna put it just in C tier, just because it's so forgettable.
yeah,
Oops, not D. I put C. What the heck? There you go. And then next is the episode I actually think is better than I thought it was. It's the one with the lady who went to USC.
mhm,
And I think it's actually pretty good because it actually she does change and she does accept that things need to change. And it does have Chef Scott in it. So I think that was pretty cool. So I think it's a pretty good episode.
yeah. I think her being her, it was kind of funny how she's like the only vegan chef,
Yeah.
and seeing her like not able to try the food, which was kind of funny.
Yeah. That was actually pretty interesting. So I will put it right behind, or I'll put it in front of the Greek restaurant in B tier. The only problem is the kitchen staff. The kitchen staff literally leave during service.
Yeah.
And then we get to Mama Rita's.
Hmm.
And I think this is a really good episode. It's arguably the best Hispanic Mexican food episode because the owner is likable. She just doesn't really know what to do. And Perla is not annoying. She's just kind of clueless. And it's one of those few restaurants that Gordon doesn't change the decor because the restaurant actually looked nice before he got there.
Hmm.
So I think it has the makings of an S tier episode.
Yeah. Mm, I wouldn't be mad if it being an S tier.
But do you think it's better than Black Pearl and Michelle's?
I think it's either right above Michelle's or right below. It's either or. It goes either or.
For now, I'll put it right in front of Michelle. And then we get to the one, I think it's called I forgot what it's called. It's another Italian restaurant though.
Oh yeah, I forgot to.
But I do like this episode because the chef once again is the main problem and it is pretty the dad, the stepdad is funny and overall it's pretty good just like like the earlier bird special and stuff like that do make it memorable. So I think it's actually a pretty good episode.
Yeah. I can't really say much. Don't really know that much. Really forgot about that much. A lot about that.
So I think I'm gonna put it at the top of B tier. The reason that B tier keeps changing is because it's just really easy to like to move stuff there because they're good episodes, but they're not like the all-time great episodes.
Yeah.
And we get to the one with Mama G with Jean.
Yeah. Um. She's. I personally don't. I per. I personally don't think this episode is all of that. I could respect everything it does, but I personally, this in my mind, is a better southern restaurant. I think again, it falls in another trope. The trope this is the trope I don't like in Kitchen Nightmares, where if the lady cries, then he will feel bad,
Yeah.
and I feel and like I hate when she cries like that. It's still technically her fault. Like that's what I don't like. That's what I don't like when it's their fault. That's why it's finding Kingston Cafe, basically.
Yeah, I think it's one of those restaurants that they try to just make you feel bad for the lady, but it's hard to feel bad for her when she's literally yelling at everyone and kind of like treating everyone kind of bad.
Hmm.
So it's just one of those episodes of an example of the show wanting to push this narrative that doesn't work. Because it's better when like in Blackberries you feel bad for Mother Mary because Mother Mary is like more timid and less forceful, while Jean is very forceful and very in your face. So I would put it in C tier.
Yeah,
And then we go to the next one would be like the one with the
bottom one.
brother and the sister,
Yeah.
yeah. Another
Again,
Italian. So,
the only memorable part in my mind is when the tiramisu and the steak.
yeah.
It's basically the when he tries for lunch when he eats for lunch. That's the most memorable part for me.
Oh yeah,
And when
that
he closes down.
easily the most iconic clip because that's literally like when he stabs the thing, he says like it's still moving. Like that's an
Hmm.
iconic clip, but like you said, that's really the only important thing. Like I don't really feel bad for the dad because how is the dad not checking up on his restaurant all the time? Like there's no way in these like 8 years he hasn't been knowing what's been going on. Like I
Yeah.
hate when they make a dad who has a lot of money and he just doesn't care about the restaurant, but then we're supposed to feel bad for him when things go wrong.
Hmm.
So I think I would put it like at the end of Beecher because it's another Italian restaurant, but it just doesn't like stick out enough. And then we get to the one that's right
Dylan's.
next, like yeah, right next to Gordon's restaurant.
Dylan's. We saw this one recently. Very, very interesting having the three manager dynamic. We never see it again, but having seen that was very cool to see because how all three of them are is completely different. Like it's not like we're two managers on the same level against one manager.
Yeah.
All three of them are in different like levels.
Hmm.
But one is like the most in the wrong, and then the one is like the one that actually wants to see it succeed, and then the other one is just there.
Yeah, I think that it's obvious that Martin is like the worst manager. Yeah, he's the most memorable because he's like the one who's not, he says he's not guilty the whole time.
Hmm.
And the fact that the staff tried defending him for a little bit is even more, is even worse. So I do think it's a really good episode. It's one of the best of season one. And I would put it in the like right behind, I think it's right behind Nino's.
Right behind Nino's. Yeah, I can see what. Yeah, I can see that.
And then we get to another season six episode.
Manja Manja.
Yeah.
Very hit or miss. Not hit or miss. Very just all around annoying. Like it's a hard watch just because it's a hard watch because even though the premise is so simple, it's like it's hard to watch it just to see how the dynamics are between the family and then the head chef.
Yeah.
Like and then it was so random that the head chef was like doing drugs. That was
Hmm.
like extremely random. I guess that's the point, but it's hard when that's the whole episode basically. When it was about him, about them. And then no one's technically in the right in this episode. Like none of the main people in the episode are in the right. The mom doesn't want to change. The daughter is always arguing with the head chef, and then the head chef is technically not is like a jerk, even though they provoke him.
I think the biggest underlying thing is that the mom literally let the head chef stay, even though he literally like threatened and even supposedly hit the daughter. So
Mhm.
it's harder for you to even feel bad for Julie because Julie is so obnoxious, and she still thinks her food is good the whole time. Like despite
Yeah.
everything that's happening, she still is like saying she's in the right. And it's even worse that it's a two-part episode in a season that's already really short.
Hmm.
like you said, the only memorable people are the bald guy and the other server,
Hmm.
and that's about it. Because I think even Gordon in this episode is a little much because the fact that he doesn't know whose sides to take in this one. So it's like one time he's defending the head chef, sometimes he's defending the daughter, sometimes like it's just he's so out of like this episode is so like it's so like so complicated, but like not in a fun way. It's like more annoying.
Hmm.
So I would put it, I think, at the bottom of C tier, like right. I think I would put at the bottom
Yeah.
because the biggest problem with it is that there's no likable person except like the servers, and that's always a bad thing when the server is the most likable person. And then we get to another. I think this is another Italian restaurant.
Um. Yeah, it is. Rip. Sad the backstory. What happens after? Uh, when we see again, I can only think of one memorable part was how they have like this competition with the servers.
Oh yeah.
Then we see that the like a lady's arguing about the food being bad, even though it wasn't, which was kind of cool. How Gordon was saying the guy actually defending them this time,
Mhm.
and it was one of the rare times we see in Kitchen Nightmares do a zoom in,
Oh yeah,
but it
like
looked awkwardly.
oh yeah, it looked like an edit, like the Kitchen Nightmares channel would make, but it was actually in the episode organically, which I agree is weird. And the other thing I remember is when Gordon is telling him how bad the food is, but in the dining room, and he tells
Hmm.
him, "Can we talk about this like downstairs?" And then he says like,
Yeah.
"Hate it," and then they basically like he basically threatens him. That's the only memorable part about it. So I would put it in front of the one with the, I would put it in front of the one with the dot with the brother and sister, but not very
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
And then we get to literally another brother and sister episode.
But the father
Yes.
is technically in the wrong still because he's at a hockey game when he's supposed to be there.
Yeah. And I just think, but I think it is a better episode because it does have, because they do eventually make up and it is understandable why weren't talking to each other. And the brother actually admits that he was wrong. But I will say the dad is annoying how he just like literally like only shows up for once like or twice the episode.
Hmm.
So I would put it like kind of in that middle of like the B tier. And then we get to Zeke's.
Hmm. Zeke's is very, how do I say this? Cool. It was cool when the head chefs were able to do their own thing and show, and like Gordon was basically saying that it's his food when it
Yeah.
wasn't. That was basically the best part, and it was cool how he actually liked the pudding.
I think unfortunately the biggest problem of the episode are the owners.
Yeah.
Because the wife is so flip-flop because there's one moment where she's saying the lasagna is fine that it's been a week old, but then the
Hmm.
moment she shows the customer, she's like, of course it's bad. We should be making it like she's so flip-flop. And then Daryl as a owner is just so like fake. Like it's one of those episodes where you can tell they don't really care that when the
Hmm.
staff like are telling them everything that's wrong. Like they obviously don't care because they're one of those people who actually push back against like the criticisms they get. So
Yeah.
I think it is a A tier episode, but the owners don't let it be a S tier.
Yeah.
I think it goes like in front of the guy who wouldn't wipe his own, but not much higher than that. Like it's A tier, but it's
Yeah.
not high A tier.
Hmm.
And we get to the one with the huge family in the restaurant.
I honestly, I think this would be if we would have to have a D tier, this would be the one to be the D tier.
I agree because there's so much drama with the family. It's like borderline kind of annoying to watch.
It's just I I think believe it's a season 3 or 4 episode. I don't
It's
think
five.
it's season. It's 5. Yeah, even
It's,
worse than season 5 episode. It's like right before that pickup of really good episodes that season 5 ends with.
yes.
And I feel this episode just ruins season 5 for contending being the best season. I just feel like this episode is very hard to watch. It's just constant yelling, fighting, and not enough for Gordon, not enough for it to be memorable. And none of the people are necessarily on the right. No one's right in this situation.
Yeah, because the kids themselves are fighting all the time, and then the dad is like forcing them to be here, and then the mom is not even doing anything the whole time. So I do think it is the only like B tier episode though so far.
Hmm.
And then we get to the one with Pinto and then the guy with blonde hair.
Mm, I honestly forgot all about this episode.
Well, I actually know more about it, but I think this episode is not very good because it's one of those cases of where the owner is there every day, but lets the
Hmm.
problems happen because he
Yeah.
hires and then he just lets his chef do whatever he wants, and he's wondering what's going wrong. And then
Hmm.
it's just one of those episodes like, how do I feel bad for this person when like they're right there? It's like it's different when the owner is gone all the time, but this person is literally like there every day. So I think it's a C tier episode, and it's like one of those weaker episodes of season one because you can tell like Gordon wants to feel bad for them, but they're not really like doing anything themselves.
Hmm.
And we get to another season five episode with Randy and I don't know her name.
Wait, it's a season 6 episode, is it not? Is the Old Neighborhood not a season 6 episode?
I know, yeah, it is season six.
Yeah, the Old Neighborhood. Very. I like the episode. It's the second best season 6 episode. In
Yes.
fact, I think that's the episode we're missing. I think we're missing Pete's. I think that's the
Yeah.
episode we're missing. Pete's. I think we can. I think right now we could just say Pete. It would be high A, low S.
Yeah.
So that sucks. We don't have that here. That's the only one we're missing. But the Old Neighborhood, second best season 6 episode. It's a very, very cool episode. I like it. When I like it how the owners are the main part, but it makes sense because they started this when they were in college. They were like working there in college and then they kept doing it, which would make sense. It's basically they've been there their whole life.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to see a hoarder side of it. I think we
Uh-huh.
only see that one other time, but that's one of the main times we see it. And it was very, very, very nice to get a change of direction of it instead of being drama or just solely about the food. It was something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the episodes where like you would think the guy would not let them throw anything away, but he's literally okay with it.
Hmm.
So I think it's right behind Nino's
Yeah. First, yeah.
because it could be S tier, but I think like you said, if Pete's was here, Pete's would have been S tier.
Yeah.
And then we go to the one with the I didn't see it.
You didn't see that.
And I think it's a really good episode, but it's one of those episodes again that had they have so much debt, there's no way they're gonna survive, and they don't survive.
Yeah. And the fact that how historic the restaurant was.
Yeah. So like it's one of the episodes you want to root for and you want to say it's like I want to say it's Esther, but it's not because it literally they end the episode saying they sold the place.
Hmm.
But it does have a memorable head chef. It does have a semi-memorable like owners and a decent staff.
Mm, yeah.
So I would put it like in the middle of A tier, but it's not S tier.
Yeah. For a season 1 episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we get to Sebastian.
Personally, Sebastian, I like Sebastian more than I know you do. But the reason I did was because when talking about Sebastian, when we see Sebastian, it's an interesting place. I think it's the one of the few places to actually take place in like Los Angeles, like where you think of Los Angeles.
Yeah,
They have like celebrities working there basically,
yeah.
and that was really cool to see. And I do like how that we actually basically see where the producers and directors work. How Sebastian goes there to fight with Gordon Ramsay. I think that was very cool to see. And he actually does change. He breaks down and realizes done, what he's done, and he's not helping. And then he actually does change, which is very cool.
I think it's one of those episodes, if you don't like Sebastian, you might not like it. But like you said, it is one of the episodes they do change like the formula for it. And they literally have different like their menu, it's not even a menu, it's like creations you can make with their food.
Yeah,
So I think I would put it in A tier just because of how creative it is. But like I said, I think Sebastian is just too annoying. And I do think it is cool. Like it is literally in Hollywood. Like Burger Kitchen takes place in LA, but Sebastian's is literally in Hollywood.
hmm,
So I would put it in like the middle of A tier just because of how
yeah,
I guess different it is than other Kitchen Nightmare episodes.
yeah.
And we get to the one with Paul.
Paul, cool. And I think this is an episode where it's kind of sad to see that Gordon doesn't fully think that he's changed,
Yeah,
which makes sense because you could see he's trying. You could see he's trying to a certain extent.
yeah.
He didn't try, but it's just so it's just one of those sadder episodes. I like how they more focus on Paul than the actual restaurant. I do like that.
And I
That
do
was
think
such.
it's good that Gordon acknowledges that he's a good chef. It's just literally he's not like totally passionate about like you could tell like he's not totally like all the way into it. And even more so the fact when like Gordon literally tells him that he doesn't think he's changed come like near the end of the episode.
Mhm,
And it is cool he does like the carrot cake, which is cool with Cheryl. But
mhm.
it is also kind of annoying that Cheryl literally is not in the revisited.
Oh no, she is.
Oh, she is.
She's the only person we've seen revisited.
Oh. Well, even more like that's even weirder in my opinion. Like it's a good episode, but it's not like I don't think it's A tier.
Yeah, I can see why.
But then we get into I what I argue is one of the best episodes in the series.
I can see why.
And I think the strongest thing it has going for it is that while um while Melanie is or I think or I'm just gonna call her Masham because that's her middle name. The best thing about it is that she's actually changes pretty quickly after the one like staff talking about her, she actually changes
Mm,
quickly. And the staff is likable and the owner is likable eventually. And then overall the dinner like him tasting everything is pretty memorable.
mhm. I like how it's like they had the utilities to have good food. They had everything perfect. They had good. They literally had the equipment for it. They just didn't. She didn't know how to manage it perfectly.
Oh yeah, it was a case of her being like smart but lazy basically.
Hmm.
And I think I would put it above Grasshopper.
Yeah,
But I can't say if it's better than Kingston Cafe.
I wouldn't personally.
But it is an S tier episode.
Yeah,
And then we get to an episode that, in my opinion, is kind of weird. It's kind of like underwhelming.
I could not tell you how the last dinner service goes. I just remember him with with the little indoor gym, and then him having anger issues with like that. That's all I remember.
Yeah, and like the wife yelling like during dinner service.
Mhm.
Like I think it's one of those episodes that is just a miss because again, it's an Italian restaurant and the guy is like too he's too like soulless a lot. Like you only see him cry like once, and that's just because he's like with his family. But overall, it's kind of lackluster. Especially, I think it's either in three or four.
Mhm. I think I think it would have to be either C. I think it'd have to be C, honestly.
Yeah, just because in a competitive like re Italian one, it's not like it doesn't stand out enough. And when next we get into Rishi, the Prohibition Grill.
Yep. Um, I like it. Like it. Very Rocco. That his name.
Rocky.
Rocky. Rocky was very cool. It was very nice. Uh, to see it, and I think it was really what's it called? The how she finds out that Rocky wasn't actually as good as she thought he was.
Yeah.
That was pretty nice to see. Like really, it was really quick too. Like she noticed it right away. It was nice to see that she's clueless about the restaurant, but when Gordon taught her everything, she knew how to manage everything.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest strengths is that a lot of owners don't really like know even when Gordon teaches them, but she caught on pretty quickly. And she was willing to accept that she didn't like really know anything in the beginning, but after and even in the revisit, you can tell she knows way more about how to run her restaurant.
Hmm.
And I think it's just overall like a good episode because it's in the season five like period where the season five turns out really good.
Hmm.
So I would put it in the high A tier, like right behind Nino's.
Yeah,
And we get to the burger one with the bomb burger.
I don't think I should be touching his food.
Yeah.
I
Mm,
think
go ahead.
honestly, I think I don't have a lot to say about this episode. I think it's personally, I would just put it in the middle of B. That's all I could think about, really. I think this is a perfect episode to start with Kitchen Hammers. I think if you don't want to start from the very start, this is a good episode to start with because it doesn't. It's not. It's like it's basically what the formula is gonna be, where he eats, he tastes it, he finds the problem. The staff talk about the problem. He gives them their I guess their solution in a way, and they basically succeed after that. I think it's a perfect episode to start off with. It's a perfect B. It's a flat B. It's not B plus, not B minus. Perfect flat B. That's what I would think about. That's my point on the episode.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that just because it is just like it is just like boom, they make an adjustment and like they're one of the few ones that do like the when they write on a card and then he reads out what the person said, but it's anonymous,
Hmm.
which was interesting. But other than that, it is pretty like formula wise to the point of it is a good season three episode. It is like with the formula, but I agree. It's like just really just B. Like you can't say it's like a A tier at all, but you can't say it's bad either.
Yeah.
Then we get to another Italian restaurant from season one.
Uh, one of the more. It's one of those episodes you remember about, you know about it, but you don't remember exactly about it. Like I remember Gordon eating the food and basically and like the person getting arrested. That's really what I remember.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the with the guy who with the wedding suit
Wait, where?
in the Oceanic. I accidentally put him there.
Oh, Sally.
Yeah, Sammy.
Sammy. Oh, I thought you were talking about the next one. Yeah, Sammy. I like Sammy. That was one of the few episodes I actually really enjoy. Like besides like that was one of the episodes that I could watch by myself and really enjoy just because of how Sammy was able to change. because of what Gordon knew Sammy, why Sammy was so against change.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I
think
think it's
Sam,
overall pretty like it stands out as an Italian restaurant. It's also interesting how that's one of the few restaurants that has like two stories. Like there's a top floor and a bottom floor, and
yeah,
the chef is kind of like the victim in the beginning, but then once Sammy changes, he realizes the chef needs to change as well.
yeah,
Is it
it's
S tier?
exuding heat. Is it S? I really tough because it has that S. It has that like it has S worthy characters with Sammy, the character development,
Uh-huh.
but it's like it's another Italian one.
I would put it in S tier, but like the bottom.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
yeah,
better than
that's fair.
Michelle's.
No,
And then we get to that episode you were talking about, which I honestly don't. It's probably my least watched episode.
I think it's fair to put it at D, just because I don't remember a lot about it.
Hmm. And then we get to an episode that I think is S, but it could have been even better if it wasn't for the owner.
Hmm.
Because
I
everyone is
just personally,
likable except her.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone, I think except her husband.
Yeah. Because even he doesn't even like push and get her to change. He just like kind of accepts the way she is.
Yeah, but I think it has one of or the best characters in Mother Mary.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like a S tier episode, but I could see it if Shelly was a good owner, it would be arguably one the best episode in the series.
Yeah. I think it is cool how we do see her actually change at the very end though. I think it would make it really like you said, it would be really good to see her like right away change necessarily and not be as stubborn. But
Hmm.
I do like how we see the change after, like she still changes, like she's not stubborn like Chappie or something like that. She's actually does change eventually. Like she does accept the change.
So I think it's S tier, but I don't think it's top five.
I think if we go to top, I think it's above Black Pearl. Is it above Grasshopper?
I would say no.
Okay, yeah. Behind Grasshopper, above Black Pearl.
But you could have like an asterisk saying that if she was a better owner, it would be better than almost everything except like Park's Edge.
Hmm.
And then we get into the one with the DJ guy or whatever his name is.
I forgot his name. Just AI. Just that's Alan Iverson.
But another episode where they make the owner seem like an innocent person, even though she's literally never there.
Like I hate how Gordon puts her on this like makeover because like she needs it from the stress.
Yeah.
Like the whole time she's talking monotone. I never see her like talk back to anyone. And just I can't say that she's a good owner really. Like
Like it's not a bad episode, but I think it could have been better because I think his name is Ricky, and then the girl's name is
Ricky.
Tabitha. And then like I said, the owner is just the worst part of it, and that's always bad when the owner is the worst part because that means like the head of the episode is bad. But
Yeah.
it's not a bad. It's literally it's not bad for being the second episode of this whole series,
Yeah.
but it definitely is not as good as Sebastian or Michelle.
Hmm.
So I think it's B tier, but it's like middle of the road.
Yeah.
And we're technically on our last episode with the guy that looks like Robert Irvine.
Yeah. More of the more depressing episode.
Yeah.
I just I honestly, the last part is a blur. I barely remember the last part. I remember the first part so much. I can't tell you that last part.
I think it's just because like the second part is just literally him going to like Gordon like trying to talk to him about like his dad passing away. And that's pretty
Mhm.
much it. Like it's not like really that much to it. The first part is memorable because you see like the dirty like carpet, the taste test, and like him drinking like during the service.